It's stuff's crazy expensive. Like the shot that I gave you is probably like let's see. It's probably well, it's not that. I mean yeah, that's expensive. It's like that was like $10. What I gave you was like $10 worth. Which is crazy. But hopefully people find more usage for these things and hopefully, it continues to grow and people continue to get pumped up about it.
Yeah, I know. I was just oop, why is my microphone so
Coming in hot.
low? Yeah, I was actually just looking at the what is it called? Keto Aid.
Keto aid, yep.
Their their Instagram having like a sale or something, and I looked at the price and I'm like, oh shit, this is not cheap.
Yeah, it's still very expensive. I think it's just the nature of the ketone ester. Um, so the way it was explained to me is that there's these ketone powders out there that are in different formulas. They're in they come in like they're bonded to a mineral. They're bonded to sodium, magnesium, potassium, or calcium. And some companies have figured out a way to bond it to um, different minerals so it doesn't mess you up. So you're not getting a crazy mineral load, if you will. Um, and these ketones are. Oh,
Hmm?
I heard myself for some reason.
Oh yeah, my bad.
The ketones are how do I say, like, I guess in a powder form, it's hard to get the amount that you need without getting too much mineral, without getting too many minerals. Okay, so this ketone ester is like this free form of ketone, and you can get the proper amount of it. So today, I think I took like 20 milliliters of this Keto Aid product. You can check them out on Instagram if you're interested in this kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that Dominic D'Agostino talks about, and Joe Rogan has talked about it quite a bit. Matt Brown has talked about it quite a bit, and it supposedly can kind of set your brain on fire. What it actually does or how it actually works, like, I don't really know all the different science behind all these different things. I'm never one to profess that I'm an expert on those types of things. However, I will tell you that over the years, by utilizing intermittent fasting and by utilizing low carbohydrate diets, I personally feel like it's done a lot for my clarity. And I know a lot of people, throw that around a lot, just like they throw around the word inflammation. You hear that all the time. Oh, it's less inflammatory. Don't eat carbs; they inflame the body. And I don't know how much truth there is to those certain things, but I will say that I do know that for some people, sometimes carbohydrates can cause problems. And for some other people, it doesn't cause any problem. So for me, exploring a little bit more about these ketones also while on a ketogenic diet is something I wanted to look into a little bit more and I wanted to explore it more. And I'll let you guys know how I feel and I'll let you guys know what it does. But even just taking this little shot that I took today, I'm already feeling a little surge from it. Now, that could be because I thought I took something that's supposed to give me a surge, and so
Mm.
therefore I'm believing in it, and it's happening that way. But it also could potentially be doing something. I'll take it before some workouts coming up and let you guys know. I'll have Andrew tinker with it too and see. We'll see what we end up with out of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked just because, like I've said in the past, like I just love tinkering with nootropics and stuff, and I used to actually try to make my own, and they would come out horribly, and I'd kind of forget my name, and other times it worked pretty good.
Andrew's trying to say he likes to get high AF.
Yeah, well, you were just saying like about that guy who was talking about smoking. Like I
Hmm.
just like to take a shit ton of nootropics because
Yeah.
it's probably bad for me.
So I saw a movie last night, a documentary, an actual real documentary, not Smokey's version of a documentary. It was about this guy climbing up some rocks and shit. This guy's a rock climber, and the name of the movie is called Free Solo. And this guy climbs with no rope, and he's a badass. And we should try to get this guy on the podcast. He's a mutant.
Tight.
But during this thing that he was trying to climb, he was trying to climb a mountain in Yosemite, and during this process, he had people that trained him and people that worked with him. And this guy said, it was just kind of like just conversation he was having with somebody else in the film, And he said, every once in a while, I just like to allow myself to have a cigarette. He's like, I know it's not good for me, but every once in a while, I'm just like, screw it. I feel like having it. And I thought that was, even though it's towards something that's not necessarily healthy, nicotine, smoking cigarettes, like probably not a great idea, right? We can all get on board and understand that that's probably not the best thing for our health. But at the same time, I thought, what a healthy thought process that guy had. And what a healthy thought process it is this time of year around the holidays to say, you know what? I just enjoy doing stuff with my family and I love participating in what they're doing. And you can kind of determine how you want to celebrate that in your own way. Um, can you sit down for Thanksgiving dinner and stay on your diet plan? Or is it just more enjoyable to join the crowd and just do what everybody else is doing? I mean, that's for you to determine, but you don't have to do everything that everyone else is doing. For myself personally, I always like to try to be in control of just myself. I can't control everything else that's going on. I'm not a control freak, or at least I don't think I am. But I do like to control what I do to myself and for myself. And so, with that being said, whether it's Thanksgiving or whether it's Christmas or whether it's my birthday or whether it's my wife's birthday, it doesn't really matter what it is. I always like to control the food that I take into my body. I always like to control my exercise and try to control my own fate in some respect. So on Thanksgiving morning, I didn't have a plan to hit the gym, but because I was like the whole day, I'm spending the entire day with my family. And my wife and everybody else was nice enough to let me go to Science Strength a bunch of times while we were up there. But on Thanksgiving Day, I didn't do that. We did a workout outside. We did 21, 15, 9 of burpees, squats, and push-ups. And then after that, we ran some hills and things like that. And we had a great time. We got a great workout in, got some exercise in, but all together as a family, as a group. And then when it came time to have Thanksgiving dinner, I had a couple of drinks. I had probably 2 or 3 glasses of wine with dinner. And that's one of those situations where, yeah, I'm allowing myself to do something because I know I just I like the way that it feels, and that's okay to do that. You don't have to have regret about that. That's actually it's a good idea for you to do that. And then how do you know like when to join in on the party and when not to? And so for me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep the food reasonable because this is kind of this is a hard time to keep the food reasonable because there's just so much stuff around. I'm not really big into pies, like pumpkin pie and some of these other things, so I didn't participate in any of that. The night unwound, everybody kind of took off, and I had at the beach house that we have, I had a perfect bar that
Hmm.
has like dark chocolate chips in it. So it's got like
You
30,
fatty.
yeah, it's got like 30 grams of carbs or 25 grams of carbs or something, right? So that was my like treat at the end of the night. And I wanted to be in control for that particular day because I know on the next day that my brother-in-law makes this amazing clam chowder. And yeah, I could have had like one bowl of the clam chowder, half a bowl of the clam chowder, and have it with no bread and whatever, right? But I didn't. I'm like, he makes this shit once a year. This stuff is golden. It's amazing. And I'm just gonna indulge on it. So I had 2 big bowls of it with a couple pieces of bread. It was freaking fantastic. Put butter on the bread and everything. So when do you kind of let go and when do you not? I think it's something that you should prepare for. It's something that you should have a conversation with, whether it's with a loved one or just with yourself. Like, what are the rules that you're going to have? If you enjoy food when you go to the movie theater, what's a reasonable situation look like? If you love going to the movies and you go 5 times a week, well, then maybe eating bad every time you go to the movie theater is not a good idea. If you go to the movies every other week and you love the popcorn that they have, maybe it's totally reasonable for you to indulge on that popcorn and have a Coke or whatever. Just it might make sense for you just to have, whatever the hell it is that you want on those particular days.
Did you have any turkey on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I had some because I don't mind some of the can I get a hey now? I don't mind some of that dark meat, if you know what I'm
There you
saying.
go.
You know? But I don't really love turkey. You guys probably saw my post where I was bitching about how dry turkey is, and then somebody wrote on there, "Turkey's drier than your mama's pussy" or something. I was like, "Oh, come on, we don't have to."
That's pretty good.
I know, I know, I know. I respect when people go all in and just
Hmm.
and I love when people hammer me too. I love it. I love when people talk shit. It's great.
Yeah, no, I love that your post because I was feeling that. What? Because I had 3 separate Thanksgivings, like just
Oh
different
my
families.
God, you're so fat.
Out of all 3, though, I had turkey once, just
How do
because
you
I'm
not
like,
weigh like 240 right now?
cause I kept it pretty clean.
Oh, there we go.
The worst thing I had, I actually wrote it down. My sister-in-law, she makes it's called cherry cheese pie.
Mm.
It's basically
Oh,
like a cheesecake, but like whipped.
I like cheesecake.
So that with the cherry sauce on top is insane. So I had that and a like and this isn't in total out of all 3, Thanksgivings. I had that. I had like a roll at one of them, and then at the last one, Stephanie made keto friendly cookies,
Hmm.
which were insane. I had too many of those.
Oh,
Like
oh.
you're supposed like
Couple trips to the
you
bathroom?
could no, like you can
Oh,
have like 1 or 2, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's cool. There's low carb, no sugar.
right.
But if you have like 5, then all of a sudden now you just went overboard.
Yeah.
But the great thing about that is we showed like her family that you can eat a ketogenic diet and still have like your cheats that are okay.
Right.
And she blew a couple of people's minds like, "Wait, I can have this and there's no sugar in here?" And it's like, "No, it's fine. Like it's just dark chocolate
Right.
and little to no carbs for each cookie. As long as you don't go overboard, you're fine." And then so it's like, "Okay, tell me more about this keto thing."
right. Right.
Which was amazing because we've been talking about it for a long time,
Hmm.
and finally it's getting, it's mainstream now,
Right.
but it's turning people's heads, and people are listening finally. And yeah, for the for the rest of it, I had, like I said, turkey once, and then salad and ham, because ham actually tastes pretty good.
I like ham.
Yeah.
I think that you can keep your meal pretty healthy. And actually, when you really think about it, like how good does some of that stuff taste? I mean, that's for you to determine because we're all different. We all have different taste buds. If you really, really love the stuffing, then just go for it.
Hmm.
But like to me, it's like the stuffing just isn't that worth it. So like I had some stuffing and I had a small amount of actually I didn't have any mashed potatoes, but I had something else, some other side. And it was just enough to be able to consume the turkey, really. That's
Yeah.
kind of what it was about for me. And
Yeah.
I had some ham and some
I
turkey.
did have some gravy.
Yeah.
I do like gravy.
So the gravy, the way I justify is had giblets in it, and the giblets have like a lot of nutrients in it. So I was like, I'm going for it.
I always say just, this has a lot of sodium, and Stan Efferding says I need salt, so this
Yeah,
is fine.
that's the way you gotta. That's the way you gotta do it. That's the
Yeah.
way you gotta justify it.
Yeah.
But I think that you don't have to. You don't have to go way off your diet. It's like it could be just a day where you have some extra eating going on. Now, of course, you can also just go hog wild and go nuts that day. But what I'm trying to prevent people from doing is falling off. I want you to stay on track. I want you to stay motivated. Do more, be more. The less that you do, the less that you tend to want to do. Depression has no chance. Depression has no ability, has no stranglehold on your life when you're kicking ass. When you're doing a lot of stuff, you will not be paralyzed. You will not just want to sit on the couch. But sitting on the couch promotes sitting on the couch. Eating junk food promotes eating junk food. And guess what? The good news is eating healthy promotes eating healthy. When you eat healthy, when you make the right decision, when you make the right choice, you tend to gravitate towards that more because you understand how that feels. I have so many friends that say, "Look, man, you know what's the hardest thing for me to do? It's hard for me just to miss a day at the gym. It's hard for me just to miss a workout." Well, how do you get yourself to that point eventually with food? That would be a great place for everybody that's listening to this show, everyone that's been tuning in for a long time that has struggled with their diet. That would be a great place to end up. Well, you end up there by making better choices than you do bad choices, and you continue to do it over a period of time. if we're just kind of break things down into some of its simpler forms, uh, for most of my life, I have worked out 4 days or more every single week from the time I was 12 years old. I'm going to be celebrating 30 years of lifting coming up on my 42nd birthday. I started when I was 12. Um, the reason why I've done that is because 4 days is more days in the week. That it's more days in a week than it's not, right? There's 7 days in a week, so mathematically, if I do 4 days a week, then I'm exercising on more days than I'm not.
I
It,
can Google it, but I'm not 100% sure about the math equation, but I think we can just assume that you're right.
yeah, it sounds pretty good. I mean, we might have to bring Joey in on this to
Right.
kind of run the numbers, but and that's all you're really trying to do with your life. That's all you're really trying to do with your day. If you can figure out a way to have more good days than bad days, then you've achieved something. And really, over a period of time, as you learn, as you grow, as you mature, you'll have a lot more good days ahead of you. You have to make them, though. That's the thing, is they don't just happen. A good day doesn't just happen. It's easy. It's easy to get swallowed up by a bad day. It's easy for that bad day to turn into a couple of bad days and end up being a bad week and a bad month. And I've heard people say it before, man. 2015 was rough. 2017 was rough, man. Like it was like, oh my God, the whole year?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, what happened? That's that's pretty wild, you know?
Yeah.
Because even if somebody died, like that is very tragic, but it's like we all understand, I believe we all understand that people do die. Right? So, like, it sucks, and it can be horrific if it's, your child or your spouse or someone you're close to. I mean, it's really, really hard, but that doesn't mean the whole year was awful because of that, right? There's gotta be you can still generate more good days than you can bad, and you have to make that happen. You have to force these things to happen.
Yeah. So the last time we spoke to the people on the podcast was before Thanksgiving.
The
You wanna
peeps.
do you wanna give a quick rundown on what you guys ended up doing for the Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we had we had an amazing time. We went to my beach house, which I was just telling you how I kind of hate saying that. I really do. I don't. We were at Science Strength in Santa Rosa. By the way, anybody in NorCal, you got to check out that gym. It's fantastic. Um, but while we were there, a bunch of people was like, "Oh, what brings you to the area?" And I was like, "Oh, we have a beach house." And I was just like, "Oh man, I don't like the way that sounds. I hate saying that." Um, Especially to, like, I don't know, especially to these kinda younger kids, they're not kids really, but they're between 20 and 30, and I know that they're struggling, and I know that they're having so it just feels like I'm just taking out a big old fucking mallet and smashing them over the head with it. But I don't know what else to call it, and I don't know, I guess I could just say I'm visiting family, but I guess I don't have to say beach house, but
Mhm.
that's literally why we're there is because we have a beach house, and that's what we all got together, and, it was amazing. It was really a lot of fun. Now, we've been going there for, about a decade, and we started going there because of my father-in-law, David Nielsen, who, passed away. He had a heart attack just a few months back. It was a really tragic thing for the whole family to go through. He was a great person, and that was like his favorite thing. He loved going to Dillon's Beach. He loved going to Bodega Bay, and he was kind of the one that introduced us into a lot of that. And so this year was kind of emotional because this is our first year without having him there, and but it was special to me and my wife because now that we do have the home there, we'd always like rent out a house, or we'd get a bunch of us and we'd rent out a house. Well, now we have our own home. Like we have a place that everyone in the family can call home. It's actually really funny because my nieces and nephews and stuff, they'll call it their beach house. They'll say that, Hambone and Lachlan and Piper and stuff, they'll say their beach house. And my kids try to correct them. I said, don't correct them. I said that this is just as much of their home as it is yours. That's why we have it. We have this thing to share. This is something that we're all going to enjoy, and we're all going to create a lot of memories here. So if they want to think that it's their house, then don't go raiding on their parade. Go ahead and let them think that. And so this year was really cool, and my wife and I got in some good conversation with my wife's aunt and uncle as well, and over some turkey dinner, and or actually it was over the clam chowder, I guess. Now that I think about it, but it was kind of interesting because uh, Andy's aunt was kind of pointing out like how Andy and I are different, and how the success that we've had and that kind of stuff, and it was not that we're different. She was pointing out that she just thought it was special what we've created with the company and what we created in being able to obtain the beach house. And it felt good to have her say that, but it also was a little awkward, having other family members around and stuff like that because she was kind of, putting us up on this pedestal, kind of,
Mm.
and but I understood what she was saying, and I thought it was great that she recognized. Um, this all this stuff is hard. I don't really ever talk about like the actual work that goes into it because some of it's boring. But this is a thing that we think about, 24/7. All the men and women here at Slingshot Super Training, at Slingshot headquarters, we all think about this job a lot, and we all put a lot into it, and it ends up being something that can consume you at times. And so I thought it was really cool for Andy's aunt to kind of say, "Hey, look, we recognize what you guys are doing, and it's fucking awesome." And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool. And how much older is she? You said she was your aunt, right?
Yeah, she's probably she gotta be like in her 60s, I guess. Yeah,
Oh, okay. So,
yeah,
like, yeah, she's like a parental figure type in your life. So
yeah,
that's really cool to have her say something like that.
yeah, yeah. It was awesome, and then we just got kind of in conversation too about being happy and like she lives in Oregon, and she was kind of talking about how they're thinking about maybe selling their house and just um, getting um, like almost like a Winnebago type of thing, and kind of like living out of like a camper type of thing, and how they're just happy, like they don't have like this crazy excess amount of stuff, although they right now they have a house and they got some decent property and stuff. But she was just like, that's what makes us happy. Like we're excited about that every day. And I was like, man, that's it's just so simple. Like that's
Hmm.
what it's all about. Get yourself in a position where you're excited about whatever it is you're going to do each day. She loves raising dogs. She's an animal lover. She loves horses. She's had all that throughout her whole life, and I think she's just, now she's getting older. She kind of wants to downsize and move into some other things. But you know, when I'm doing these seminars and when I'm on this podcast and I'm sharing things with people about being successful, or I shared the message the other day about um how I had this goal to make $1 million. That doesn't have, like, everyone needs to kind of pick their own goal and pick their own thing, but also be very careful and very selective about what this goal is. Don't have your goal be my goal. Have your goal be your own thing that manifests from your own heart and from your own spirit, because otherwise it won't really be true. Like, you ever listen to somebody and they're trying to say something with conviction, they're trying to say something strong, and it just doesn't land on you the right way? It just doesn't hit you the right way? Well, it's probably because they might not fully 100% believe in what they just said.
Hmm.
They might not truly believe the thing that they just told you. They might not really believe that they're gonna be successful or whatever it was that they just said. You can kinda tell, like, that didn't really come from, like, the depths, and you don't know I don't know what makes that happen, but I do know that it's important that you find things that you really truly love to do. Usually the things that you love to do are the things that not really make you happy, because happiness is, if you only did the things that make you happy, then you would actually probably end up being, like, heartbroken and depressed a lot of times if you just did things that were, like, pleasurable all the time, right? Like, you
Like selfishly pleasurable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so it can't just be like this, nonstop party all the time. There has to be, these goals, and these things have to be worked towards, they have to be worked for, and they have to be earned. I've mentioned before that, life is not like a credit card. It doesn't give you success like up front. You pay for it later. You got to pay for it first.
Mhm.
You got to pay for it, pay for it, pay for it, pay for it, and you still might not get it.
Yeah.
Like it's like holding out on you. Like you're like waiting, 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 and then finally you get a little bit of success. You get something, and then everyone's like, "Oh man, that guy had everything handed to him," or "Man, I bet Andrew's family helped him buy his new car or his new house or
Mhm.
whatever." Right? Like that's and you're like, "Man, like I just was working my ass off for the last decade. I finally made it somewhere."
Somebody give me a high five, please.
Somebody a pat on the back, a pat on the tushy, something.
There you go. So it seems like the story about your aunt like wanting to kind of move out and just live in a trailer essentially, but like wherever. She's happy with what she has. Did someone like that do any Black Friday shopping?
Yeah, she actually did.
Because I was curious. I wonder if you and Andy did any.
No, no, I don't think I don't think I've ever bought anything
Yeah.
on Black Friday or I may have, but
Hmm.
I don't think so. But yeah, my aunt actually she bought so she's actually was really cool because so I had the book on Doctored from Dr. Davis who was on our podcast recently, and I had Icon meals that were shipped to the house, and then I also um, I showed her some stuff because her lower back bothers her, so I showed her some stuff she can do with the hip circle just to stay active and just to move around and explained, how the hips are kind of connected to everything and it's not always just your lower back that hurts and so on. And so she ordered a hip circle, she ordered Icon meals, and she ordered the book on Doctored. She
That's
ordered,
cool.
yeah, she ordered everything. And
Yeah.
then my mother-in-law did the same thing. She's like, I'm gonna go order that stuff too.
That's awesome. I know we were watching a documentary over the weekend. It was done really well. I can't remember the name, but I was looking down and I hear someone's voice and I'm like, that sounds really familiar. And it was William Davis.
Oh,
And
cool.
it was just a trip like, oh fuck, I'm watching Netflix and I worked with that guy.
Yeah,
Like that was pretty cool.
that guy's a damn beast.
Yeah, he's super nice.
But yeah, we had an awesome time at Thanksgiving in like Bodega Bay. It's just a ridiculously beautiful place. Like the whole time, like the house that we live in just has this huge glass. Like the whole house is like glass almost, and so you can just see out from every window, and all you see is the ocean, really, and the sun coming up and the sun going down.
Yeah.
It's just it's ridiculous, and just the air there was like the air quality was better than here in Sacramento with all the fires and everything. So that was actually really refreshing because it was getting really bad around here, and that was actually something I was worried about because I was like, man, I want to walk and I want to maybe run while I'm up there, but I'm not going to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
And so all that was really nice, but it's cool that you can just kind of sit there and just chill and not really be doing much of anything. And then all of a sudden you can just say, hey, like, you want to go for a walk on the beach? And I went with my daughter and my niece, Piper. And we just randomly walk. Like, outside is cool enough. It's nice enough. It's fun enough to just go outside and just walk. Like, there's not a lot of places that are like that. Sometimes you go to a new area and it's new and exciting, and yeah, you want to kind of walk around and check it out. But like most spots, it's just not that fun to really like just randomly walk outside and and walk
No.
around. But in Bodega Bay, it never gets old.
No, I was gonna say it's actually a lot harder to stay inside in Bodega Bay. Like
Yeah,
it can get cold or whatever,
yeah,
but it's so beautiful. Yeah, and the crazy thing is it's not far away from where we're talking right now.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Right.
when you think of like, oh, the most like awesome places to visit in the world, you're just like, oh shit, well Hawaii, that's too far. Or,
Hmm.
wherever SoCal and certain beaches are really nice. But
Right.
then you think like, oh, Bodega Bay, that's less like 2 hours less than that.
Yeah,
And it's like, shit, how come we don't go there more?
yeah. It's just a 2 hour drive, and it's I mean that's what I was saying to my wife. I was like, when are we coming back? She's like, not till like New Year's. And I was like, why? I'm like, we need to come back sooner than that. I was like, what about my birthday? I'm like, we should come back for my birthday. She's like, I don't know.
Like, we don't have to ask anybody, it's ours.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm like, let's just do it. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, getting the whole family together like that. And, you know, like, I cooked breakfast for some of the kids, not every morning, but a few of the mornings. And, um, it was just fun. We had a lot of family, a lot of friends over, and just there was a lot of a lot of drinking going on, and a lot of games and puzzles, and just people just kind of putting their phones aside and just chilling, just
That's
hanging
great.
out, just talking, having
Mhm.
conversations. And I think, as a kid, it's really easy to kind of especially like if you're like a teenager, or even kind of preteen, but it's really easy to kind of complain about what you got, and it's really easy to kind of be like, oh, here comes family. Like I gotta, oh, great, Uncle so and so is gonna ask me about school. Those are all very normal things that's very normal when you're a kid to think that way. But what I notice is a lot of, just in general, you hear a lot of people blaming, and hear a lot of people kind of being upset about just the way that things are. And it's like, well, you can't really be upset about the way that things are, because they just are the way that they are. There's certain things that are within your control that you can handle and that you can manipulate, but it really doesn't do you any good to complain about stuff that you have no intentions of doing anything about, such as like the government or the state that you live in, or we've talked about it here on the podcast a bunch. People will say, "Oh man, I don't have a super training near my house."
Mm.
It's like that's absolutely nothing to do with you getting stronger. Yeah, it would be great if there was a super training down the street from your house, but guess what? There is not one down the street from your house. And also, I'm sure if the person was to pay attention and look, there's powerlifting gyms in every city, in every state. And I know that we have something special going on here, and it's super training is a unique place, but you could find coaches, you can find other people that are into strength. It's just that you haven't looked for them, and you're being lazy by just saying, "Ah, man, there's no powerlifting around here. Nobody's really into lifting those big weights. All they got is Planet Fitness around here." It's like, really? I've been to every nook and cranny of this country, and there's gyms all over the place. They're everywhere. And it's not just Planet Fitness, and it's not just 24-hour fitness. There's a place for all of us to go. There's places for all of us to make you know, big improvements.
I was making fun of somebody that will go nameless, but they were saying that in their situation, they don't necessarily know how to even work out correctly. And so I'm like, oh man, if only there was a person that you can pay that can show you everything. They can teach you how to train. It's like, oh man, I even have a name for them. You can call them trainers that they can help you figure out how to use all the equipment so that way you can do it on your own later. It's a damn shame that doesn't exist though. Just trying to shut down every excuse possible, and it I mean, obviously it didn't end well, but
Right, right.
I was so frustrated because it was excuse, answer, just one after another, and I'm just like, hey, like at the end it's ultimately up to you, but like stop making these excuses.
And that's exactly what it sometimes just comes down to. And I think that people think that things are going to change. Um, 2019. 2019 is going to be different.
The final answer that I got back was, I'm gonna wait till the first. I was like, it doesn't matter.
The first is going to be so different.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, every excuse you have that will push you out to the first is still gonna be there on the first. Does
Hmm.
not matter what it is.
No, no, no. But when the first comes around, listen. I'm cutting out carbs. I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm
Mhm.
going to stop smoking. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. every day, and I'm going to eat more vegetables. And every Saturday night, I'm going to have one like cheat meal, and that's it.
Sure. It's funny because
It's like, wow, you just changed like 75 things,
hmm
and you and by the time that date rolls around, whatever date it is that you laid out, you're going to start to really pile up the excuses, so that you don't have to really fully commit to it.
hmm
And you're going to be like, well, I said one cheat meal, but Friday, is my brother's birthday, and that's going to be a fun party to go to. So, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, boom, 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 boom. And now, like, you did, 3 days of just eating shit, and maybe even a fourth day. And now you had more bad days than you did good, and you're already off the team.
Oh, way off, yeah. to literally take a page out of Aubrey Marcus's book. He's a little on the hippie side, but
That's okay. We still love them.
I finally finished his book. What is it called? Owning the day. Anyway, he was talking about building your ethos, meaning have like you're saying you're the thing that you know you're always going to do. He's like, but don't go out there and say I'm never eating sugar again.
Yeah.
He's like, because come lunchtime, your coworker's going to give you a couple cookies, and you just broke your ethos, and now you're
Hmm.
depressed that you couldn't stick to anything.
Right.
Like, so have something that's a little bit easier to obtain at first, and then shoot for the stars with whatever it is that you're building.
Right.
And I thought that was huge, and it's kind of what you're saying right now. Like, this person's going to build all these chips against them, and then it's going to start Monday, and then they start building anxiety because it's like, oh shit, like this is all supposed to happen tomorrow and I haven't even started. And then that's when the depression kicks in, and it's like, oh, like I'm never going to get in shape.
And you just see it time and time again, and we're all guilty of it, and we're guilty of it in different guilty of it in different areas. Each person is guilty of it in their own way. And sometimes it's easy for us to point out, oh, well, I can't get so and so to commit to this like fitness program, or I can't get so and so to commit to this diet. What a loser. And it's like, well, no, you're a loser too. Like,
Mhm.
let's not let's not place the blame all on them. They just struggle with their diet. That doesn't mean they're a piece of shit. It doesn't mean that they're not motivated. It doesn't mean that they're not a great person in other ways, right? It just means that they're fallible, which we all are. We all have mistakes. We all have holes in our game, and we all need to try to work on kind of tightening these things up. But what I love to share with people is, look, man, you can get better. You can be better. You just have to keep trying. You got to keep kind of working towards it. We got a guy in our gym here that, he kind of gave me the excuse that he works nights, and I was like, wow, like the excuse of working nights literally has nothing to do with your weight. Those things are
Mm.
they're not related. Now, okay, we can get into a thing about, human beings are not like nocturnal and right, okay, fine. But this is what you're dealing with. This is what's in front of you. You can't complain about the way things are unless you're going to try to change the way things are. Like, don't go complaining about the government or don't complain about taxes unless you have wrote up a tax reform. Don't complain about your area unless you're planning on doing something about it. Don't complain about the violence that's in your city or in your town. Why complain about it? Why not try to do something about it? People are breaking into cars around your home. Start a neighborhood watch. Like, be proactive. Do something. Get off your ass and do something. And these complaints, they don't do anything. They're 100% negative. They don't get you towards your goal at all. You sometimes hear someone say, "Oh man, like I can't really exercise. I'm too sick or I'm too depressed." Or it's like, man, if you can walk, you can move, and if you can move, then that's exercise, right? I mean, you're fine. And I heard Joe Rogan say this kind of recently. He was like, "Man, if you can walk to your mailbox," and he's like, "That's something."
Yeah.
Everyone needs to kind of get out of their head about how their workout can't look like The Rock's workout, right? That's fine. The Rock, there's only one of them, There's only one guy that's 6'5", 270 pounds, carved out carved out of wood,
Mm.
a hot piece of ass, the Brahma bull, the great one, right? There's only one rock walking the face of the earth, right? And there's only one guy that goes at it that hard that way, that wakes up at freaking 3 in the morning and trains and goes through a whole day of making movies and selling Under Armour shit, right, all day long, right? There's only one guy that does that. And so there's no reason to compare yourself to that. There's no reason to compare yourself to these people that have an 8-pack, right? Just compare yourself to yourself. What have you done lately to get better? What have you done towards your fitness to make an impact on yourself? You already know the answers. Like, if you need a book to keep you in check, and you need to read that book and have the information in that book keep you accountable towards your diet, then go buy a book. Go get a book. Go listen to an audiobook. There's a lot of options. If you need something to kind of motivate you and lift you up a little bit, all these things are fine. But figure out a way. How can you get consistent? How can you start to make an impact on your own personal philosophy? And that's really what we're chipping away at. I know for myself, that I probably had this kind of like quote unquote awakening. It probably started about 5 or 6 years ago. And then my brother has followed. I feel I'm having a big impact on you. I feel like I'm having a big impact on the others in here. It's not that anybody in here was worthless or a loser, and then I came along and saved their lives or anything. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just that the point that I was at in my life 5 or 6 years ago is I can recognize that in other people, and I can kinda see it, and I can go, "Oh my god, this is actually awesome because this person has so much potential. They're about to light this whole damn building on fire." It's just a matter of, like, kinda tweaking a couple things. I need to get this person to believe in themselves a little bit better. I need this person to stop saying, "I can't," or I need this person to stop. How many people do you know that say, "Ah, you know what? I can't help with that. I'm not creative." And it's like, well, of course you're not creative because you just shut down that side of your brain by saying that. Like, that's horrible. Like, don't
Mhm.
say that about yourself. And I'm very guilty of this too. Like, oh, I can't be organized. I can't help it. I'm always gonna be late, and I'm always gonna like mess shit up. I'm unorganized. Can't do it. And it's like, well, why have that mindset about yourself? Why not give yourself a little bit more positive reinforcement? And sometimes negative reinforcement is actually good too, and say, "You know what? I really do suck at that." But I'm not gonna sit around and watch myself just always suck at it. I'm gonna figure out a way to get better. So I'm gonna like make more notes in my phone, and I'm gonna put stuff on the calendar, and I'm gonna use a pen, and I'm gonna write stuff down, and I'm gonna learn how to communicate better. And I'm gonna work on being smarter. I try to work on learning more shit every single day so that I can deliver a more powerful message to more people all the time. When I go and do these seminars, they seem to each and every time I do a seminar, they get better and better. They get better every single time. Sometimes there's like a step back, and that's part of the learning curve. That's part of the process. But in general, they get better every single time, and they get better every single time because I try to go into these things prepared. I may not like sit up there and read anything that I wrote down, but I certainly do think about it a lot. I think about what is the message that I want to deliver to people. And when I did this last seminar in Bodega, um, I'm just really excited about the future and excited to do seminars that aren't always in a gym setting. Because if they're in a gym setting, then Mark Smelly Bell is forced to show you how to bench, squat, and deadlift. But I feel like I have a lot more to offer people than just that. I feel like my life experiences have carried me to certain points that could I can explain how things have happened to me. I can explain what has unraveled for me and how things have worked out. And I can explain how I've had to make these things work out. And I can inspire a lot of people and I can move a lot of people and have them understand and have them have a better belief in themselves. I was told some really absurd shit when I was a kid by different people, and so have you. You guys have been told the same thing. You guys have been, fed the same bullshit lies that I was fed. That you weren't good enough at something. You weren't tall enough. You weren't strong enough. You weren't thick enough. You weren't skinny enough. You weren't this enough or that enough. Pretty enough. Whatever it was. We've all been like robbed. We've been robbed of the things that we wanted to do as a kid. It's been stripped away from us, and then you're left with being like, "Oh, I'm just gonna be like a mechanic because I'm kinda halfway into cars, and that's what I know how to do. And I'm just gonna go to that job every single day, and I'm gonna fish on the weekends, and hopefully I can squeeze in some time with my wife and my kids here and there."
Yeah, I hate that.
Which all that's fine, like, if that's what you wanna do, but you can do more, and you can be more. Like, maybe rather than just thinking, "I'm just gonna be a mechanic," and maybe that's something you really truly love, maybe you own the shop. Or maybe you're a kick-ass mechanic and you work for like a NASCAR, you work for some high-end thing, like where you're doing something on a much higher level. But if you already have knowledge in that space, you can learn more shit and you can do more and you can become more. You can become more valuable to the people around you, can become more valuable to yourself. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was just talking the other day to one of the people here at Slingshot, and we were kind of laying out this idea for a commercial. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to like some of this negative shit that I've heard over the years. I'd love to like play that over top of like me waking up at 4 o'clock and me, making a protein shake or eating breakfast and then coming here and then kicking some ass and then going into like meetings and shit like that. Just, have that footage playing as I'm talking about my, guidance counselor that told me I would never go anywhere because I'm on a third grade reading level. That kind of shit. And I know that you guys listen to this. I know that you've all been told all these things, but what happens is it's like that shit sticks to your ribs. That stuff sits around. That stuff manifests and it turns into bad ideas and bad concepts for yourself, and you end up with a shitty philosophy. Your own personal philosophy is no longer strong anymore because you don't believe that you can do these certain things.
Even if you just shrug it off and try to be like, oh, that doesn't bother me. Like I'm too cool for that shit anyways. But I had my counselor in high school just look at me and be like, "There's no way you're gonna graduate, so I'm gonna get you ready for was it called continuation school or like adult ed or whatever." And I looked at him like, "So it's like mathematically impossible for me to graduate high school." And he's like, "Well, no, it's possible, but not for you." And that was a negative like reinforcement that I needed. So
Hmm.
I graduated late, but
Right,
I
right, right.
still did, the year I was supposed to. But you're right. Like at the time, I was like, whatever, it doesn't bother me. But then I became super depressed because I'm like, this is weird. Like
Hmm.
all of my friends are gonna graduate and I'm not. Like what the fuck? And then I ended up figuring it out. But
Drives me crazy that my son is my son is so smart. Like he knows it doesn't matter, and it drives my wife crazy. Like
that's so good though, man.
it's great. It's
Yeah.
great. Like I don't want to rob him of that, but he knows the secret. He's so like it's not even like smart, but he just has this like something inside of him that understands like that shit don't matter. That's not
Mhm.
where life is at. Like life doesn't begin and end with homework.
Mhm.
He knows that shit doesn't doesn't matter, and it will make my wife absolutely crazy. So I'll have conversations with him all the time and say, hey man, like look, we got to get this homework done, and he's like, why? And then
Mhm.
what they used to sell you on was college. You got to get the homework done because you need grades for college. Well, now they don't really have much to sell you on anymore because going to college isn't what it used to be.
Right.
I'm not going to say that going to college doesn't have value. It has tremendous value. There's so many things that you can learn from going to further your education. There's a lot of things you can learn. However, you can learn all that same shit by furthering your own education. You can learn that stuff faster, in my opinion, by throwing yourself out there in the real world
Absolutely.
and seeing whether you can sink or swim or not.
Yeah.
What if what if what if your guidance counselor, right? These guidance counselors, I don't know what's with them. They seem like evil people. But what if this guidance counselor said, Andrew, like, listen, man, you're not doing your homework. Like you're not very responsible. Like you're not doing a great job in school. And I don't it doesn't look like you're heading towards graduation the same time everybody else is. But what is it you like to do? What do you have fun with? Like, have you ever tried photography? You ever tried music? Like, some people just don't like school, Andrew. Like some people you know, they just don't love academia. They just don't love studying books and
Mhm.
and shit like that. You ever tried messing around with something different? And you'd be like, well, I don't know. Well, maybe you should take a photography class sometime, or maybe you should see if you're interested in something else because you might have a career in something different if your brain's not working so great for this particular work in school. Like maybe you're not going to be a teacher, maybe you're not going to be a doctor, maybe you're not going to be a lawyer, right? Like we
Mhm.
can start to rule out some of these things that you probably don't care to be since you don't really care that much or seem to care that much, at least right now, about school. And then you might have found something easier, something faster. And then how awesome would it be at 16 or 17 to be like, you know what? All I want to do is photography. So as soon as I graduate school, I'm going to latch on to the best photographer in the area, or I'm going to move to Detroit or wherever there's a good photographer. I'm going to move there and I'm going to hang out with that dude as much as I can, even if he doesn't want me to. or you're gonna try to find a job. You're gonna find, like, as you already did, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna try to latch on to something like, where's there somebody that knows how to shoot good photos? I'm gonna hang out with that person. I'm gonna learn. You're gonna learn a lot more there than you're gonna learn going to college. Probably
Yeah.
is my guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talking to Chris Griffin, head of media over here, from when I started to, I don't know, maybe like about a year or so ago. And he told Ryan this not too long ago too, so maybe it's just something he tells everybody. But he was like, "No, like you've progressed more than the college students I went to school with from like for film school. Like, from start to finish film school, you've progressed way more than they have." And that's me as a photographer, just because I'm engulfed in the media, here, and I have to do it every day. Like, so
Hmm.
we learn on the job. Same
Right.
thing with Ryan. He didn't go to school for any of it either, and he's way better than I am now. And I've been doing it longer, but just because he does it so much now, it's, you're right. On the job or just being in the culture, you learn way more than a
Yeah.
piece of paper is going to ever teach you.
Well, and that's where somebody might, and I'm talking about complaining about, like, kind of where you're at, and complaining about, like, the way things are. Like, um, we bring someone in and we say, hey, we pay X amount. This is what we pay for photography. This is your amount of money. And then someone's like, well, shit, man. Well, how am I going to afford my life? And how am I supposed to be able to do well at this stupid job if this is all I get? Well, because it's not about what you get. It's about what you can become,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you can work in an environment like this and you can expedite your learning process, you should be fucking paying us to work here. I
Right.
mean, obviously you have to get paid for what you're doing, right? But the point is that what a wonderful opportunity it is to come into some of these smaller companies and really learn at the ground level. I mean, if you hung around here long enough, you could ask a couple questions in our warehouse. You can ask a couple questions to Jessica Smith, who runs a lot of our social media. You can pop into the media room and kind of find out what they're doing. You can run over and talk to little Smokey and realize that he doesn't do anything for this company. You can go talk to Josh Kim and figure out what the fuck he does with himself all day. But you could really learn and absorb a ton, and it would be about way more than photography, because when you sign up for photography or you want to be a photographer, you might think, okay, well, I just want to snap some really cool, legit photos. And I'm going to get some scenery and, like, I don't know, every once in a while, maybe I'll, like, shoot a wedding because that's just good money, right? Um, but you're not thinking about, like, oh, I need to make stuff so it's for Instagram, and I need to, configure these things this way for, like, somebody wants it for IG story. Oh, somebody wants me to make an album for them for their Facebook page with music over top of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts to get, then you're like, oh man, oh shit, they thought I could take pictures and video. Oh shit. Okay, well, maybe I just tell them I'll just make it up as I go and tell them I'm fine with doing both. And you end up in these situations anyway that school would otherwise not prepared you for in any way to begin with. So, I mean, there is a lot to learn, like the process of going to college, especially if you go away to college. Getting an apartment and all these things, and, like, living with other people and um, trying to have a, like, kind of minimalist lifestyle while you're going to school, and not overspending, having a budget. Like, all these things are, I mean, those are all huge, but you certainly don't need to go to college for that. You just need to get kicked out of your house for that.
Yeah, and my nephew, I think I've said it on the podcast before. He was kind of having a hard time with school because he had that same kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this isn't help. This homework's not gonna help me be successful at my job later. And I just told him, like, hey, like, it sucks. You've already learned everything you need to know. Like, you're not stupid. Like, I'm telling you right now, everything you're learning from here on out kind of doesn't matter. Like, but you have to finish school so that way you can accomplish something. Because if you don't finish school, you're just gonna quit everything for the rest of your life.
Right.
And he kind of had to wake up, and so he's doing fine now.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not helping because I'm for his birthday I got him some computer part to help him build his gaming PC. And so I sent it to him just to make sure it was the right thing, and he's like, "Yeah, that is cool." I'm like, "All right," and this was during school, so that's even worse. But I'm like, "Okay, cool. Get back to learning stuff you're never gonna use the rest of your life." And he just started laughing. He's like, "All right, cool, thanks."
That's great.
I can't imagine Jake being as smart as Andy, but with your attitude.
Oh man,
That's terrifying.
I know. It is.
I think it's great though, man.
Yeah, no, it's it. I think it's great too. Like he's. But what you said about knowing like everything, like knowing the basics of what you need to know, probably already happened.
Yeah.
And it happens pretty early on in school. And how do you get a kid to understand the value of his homework? The kid's gonna have to understand like the value of themselves to really try to figure that out. And man, what a tough thing that is to try to have a 12 or 13-year-old kid to try to figure out when they're just dealing with so many other things. Like they're most likely they're not going to come to that realization. You just need to be more mature to be able to understand your own value and what you're capable of doing, and kind of taking pride in representing yourself. Like it'd be rare. You'd have to be raised that way to kind of always put forth your best effort. Um and yeah, it's like what's your reason, what's your they say like what's your why, what's the reason behind uh like why do you need to be responsible for your homework? Let's just it's a hard sell these days, in my opinion. And where you could potentially sell it is, you could say, look, man, your ability to communicate with other people and you being sharp and you being intelligent is always going to matter. It will always matter. So you know what? Like, if you don't graduate high school, it doesn't really mean that you're dumb, but it's not going to help towards any of the goals that you may have. Like pretty much everyone graduates high school. So let's just do that, and let's at least put in some effort to the homework. Let's get some of the shit done. And I think that you can even agree with them and say, you know what, you're kind of right. Like it doesn't matter that much uh, for what you're thinking down the road, but everything matters and everything ends up shaping you. For me, like I was like that in school because I struggled in school, but it just took me a really long time to develop too. Like it took me, 30 years to develop. And so hopefully for other people, it just doesn't take them that long. Maybe other people don't have that much time. I had that much time because I have awesome parents. And then I ended up meeting Andy, and Andy was the breadwinner for the family. She made the money, so I was able to kind of continue to dream and grow and develop during that time period. But like, man, I was, I took a long time, and maybe somebody that's raised by a single parent, or maybe somebody that doesn't have a significant other that pulls them up, then maybe they don't ever get the shot. And I don't think I wouldn't be standing in front of you today if I didn't have people that like were supportive of me, that like nourished me, that turned me into what I am today. And now, as I moved forward, like I'm more productive. I'm more like self motivated and some of those things. But I've never had a trouble with motivation. But I certainly did have some problems with trying to figure out like my own like self worth. I guess I was never depressed, and I never thought I was a piece of shit. But I also didn't have enough under my belt to really feel that great about myself. As a I would say as a man, but as a person, period. I actually think it's just important. You got to be able to. There's got to be some points that you could put up on the scoreboard. There's got to be something, and something that you truly know that you did. Like I did that. I did that on my own. That was, you may have done it for other people or whatever, but you did something on your own. Like that is a really, uh, that is a great place to be, and that is a really great feeling to have that.
Yeah, you definitely have a. I will agree. Say that you have a really positive impact on my life for sure. One thing that happened over the holiday weekend also, Stephanie had asked me like, "What do you want for Christmas? What are we gonna do?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't want anything. Of course, that's the typical answer. When deep down, it's like, oh fuck, it'd be cool if.
Hmm.
So I just told her we have our sunroom, and I wanted that to be our personal development room. Like,
Nice.
but it just needs a big ass desk.
You're right.
That's all it needs, a straight desk, nothing fancy, desk and a chair. And over the weekend we got it, so I'm really pumped about that because I'm like, holy shit! Like every day I get to come in here and work on personal development that I learned from this fat guy over here.
Hmm.
And who knows? We'll see what happens. But
Why
yeah,
why do you think that people like, the personal development thing maybe sometimes it's hard for people to really understand, but let me just kind of break it down for everybody in a little bit easier terms. Really all you're doing is it's going to sound weird to say it this way, but you're planning for your future. That's all you're really doing. Like you may not literally be writing down what's going on in 2019 and 2020, but you're learning more shit just so you're prepared for what's next. So for example, let's just say that, I set Andrew on this path of being on a keto diet. And then Andrew likes Aubrey Marcus, so maybe he goes back and looks at Aubrey Marcus's book and be like, I think Aubrey Marcus talked about the keto diet. He goes and he looks and he's like, oh, okay. Well, he learns more about the keto diet. Then maybe he's sitting there and he's on his laptop and he's like, well, that was kind of cool what Aubrey Marcus said. Let me type in a couple other things. Da 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 da. Looks up a couple other things. Well, now you, I gave you some information. You went out and researched it on your own. Something that Aubrey Marcus said stuck to you better than something I said. You read that, you researched a little bit more information. Well, now you have information that you have both extracted from me and from a few other people and turned it into a couple things that you can digest a lot easier, a couple things that are going to stick with you a lot easier. And now when someone says, "Hey, why are you on a diet?" You're not like, "I don't know. Yeah, my boss told me to," and like you're not like a raging idiot, right? Like you're like, well, actually, so here's what I did. I decided to cut out all the sugars and I replaced it with fat and protein. I'm switching my body over into being able to run off the fats, and actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I went in the gym the other day. I hit a PR double on the bench, and my energy levels are good. And this feels pretty good to me for right now. And I'll probably switch the diet up in a few weeks, but this is what I'm doing. I'm in ketosis, and so it just the more you can figure out the reason on kind of like why you're doing something, the purpose of why you're doing it, then the easier it is for you to follow it. The Russian athletes, they broke them down and they kind of figured out why the Russian system was so effective for weightlifting. And one of their philosophies, one of the things that they had in there was, and one of the principles they had was called the principle of awareness. So they recognized that in order for their athletes to do well, they had to understand why they were doing it. They had to be aware of like, what's this for? Like you told me to do 100 snatches with the bar after my workout. If I don't know why I'm doing that, then I'm going to do 49 of them and say that I did 100. And then the next week I'm going to do like 30 of them, and the week after that I'm not going to do any. But if I understand why, if they say, "Hey, look, Alexiv, who's the most decorated Olympic lifter in the history of lifting, he used to do this after his workouts, and he found that it helped his central nervous system recover from his workouts better, and he was able to be stronger every workout after that because he recovered faster." Then you'd be like, "Oh shit, okay, all right, well maybe I should try that." And then maybe you try it, and A, because the coach told you it works so well, it probably feels good, and B, maybe there's actually something to it. But now you have something that you can continue to do, and you got something that you're made aware of. You understand what the hell's going on, and that's what personal development is all about. It's all about trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, no, that's great. And somebody had asked, I think I don't remember if it was the Power Project Instagram or if it was my personal one, but they just kind of wanted to know what your process was when you're journaling or you're scribbling around, doodling in your composition book. But essentially, that's basically it, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to like arm myself. They say like
Yeah.
the pen is mightier than the sword, right? Like, well, knowledge is really powerful. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is strength. Um, you're not always going to be able to like muscle your way at everything. You're not always going to be able to beat the shit out of people. And that's not even really what life is all about. And even if you were to beat someone's ass, you're still not going to probably be able to convince them of your way anyway, right? You probably it probably makes more sense to have perspective into their life, where they're coming from, and be smart and to say, you know what, I understand your perspective on that. That actually makes a lot of sense, but here's where I disagree. And then when you explain why you disagree and you lay down the foundation of some really informative stuff that has some facts in it, then you're able to kind of take that person and have them say, yeah, man, actually he's right. The more that you do, the more that you can
Mhm.
do. Like he's actually got a point there. I mean, really life is it's not like that for me. It's like that for everybody. You're always trying to make a sale. You're always trying to sell people on something, some concept, some idea, some belief. You're trying to get people to believe in some of the things that you're communicating. And so for me, when I'm, scribbling down stuff and writing down different things in this personal development journal, that's what a lot of this is. And like I I don't have any restriction on how I write or how big I write. If something's a big deal, I'll write it bigger. If something, is needs to be underlined or capitalized or, whatever, I'll write these things out. Um, like, I mean, I have stuff right here that's written down that I'm looking at, and it talks about like isolated victories, and this is something I kind of came up with more recently through hearing other speeches. They didn't say an isolated victory, but they basically kind of said, like try to do things one thing at a time. And I kind of thought about the image of, in a basketball game when you clear out the court and the guy with the ball is dribbling and he waves everybody off with the
Mhm.
hand and he's like, "All right, now I'm going to go one on one. I'm going to take the game-winning shot." How foolish is it to live your life and to let other people take the game-winning shot for you when the game is your life? It's your own it's your own life. So if you don't make plans, then other people aren't really going to make plans for you either. And so you'll just be you'll just be left on the sidelines. You're not going to have a chance to even shoot the game-winning shot when it comes to those kinds of things. Or, you know what type of plans people are probably going to always make for you? They're probably always going to make really small plans for you. Probably not going to really make really big plans. They'll make huge plans for themselves. And I'm talking about all human beings. This is the way that we're wired. This is the way that we are. Um, but you shouldn't have small plans and small goals. You should have some big ones. You want a few small ones too. You want a few things that are easy to acquire, easy to obtain, easy to strive for, such as, one tiny thing added to your diet is a great place to start. I'm going to start eating fruit every day. Eat one piece of fruit every day. Eat one serving of vegetables every day. Like just these small little things. Okay, well, I actually ate a piece of fruit every day for 7 days. There you go. I actually ate, a serving of vegetables every day for a week. There you go. Like that's progress. And that's huge progress. And that's stuff that should be celebrated. And it's really important to recognize too that celebrating your victories that you have, is not a sign of being immature. It's a sign of maturity. You should be able to celebrate the things that are going on in your life, and that's why I made a video the other day. I was out in front of my pink house that I lived in a few years ago,
Mhm.
and actually, I did not really realize how different that neighborhood looked compared to the neighborhood I live on, the block that I live on now. But I like moved myself off of that block, by the work that I put in, by the work that I did. And I didn't even really know like the where I lived before wasn't bad. It was still a nice area. It's still great. The house I lived in, uh, you know, I I still loved it. It was still a great house to raise our children in, and that's where the slingshot was slang out of the garage out there. And I don't have any regrets towards it, but it was interesting walking back down that block and looking at that street going, "Oh my god." Like Where I live now looks nothing like this block, you know? It was a huge upgrade, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But that upgrade didn't just happen, like, I made that shit happen. I forced those things to happen, and a lot of it has to do with my own personal development. If I just got dumber, then I wouldn't be in the position I'm in. You have to get smarter. You have to acquire more knowledge. Some of the knowledge is just going to come from life happening anyway, but some of it has to come from you sitting down and you figuring out, okay, what are some things that I should be working on? What are some things I should be working towards? These things can be things that you like. It's totally fine. But like when I sit down and I try to learn, I don't sit there and look at workouts. I don't sit there and look at information about diet. I mean, occasionally I do. Occasionally I go off into that. But once I do, I'm like, you know what? I already kick ass at that stuff. I already know quite a bit about that stuff. Um, I don't need to sit here and like research that. Leave the research to the nerds like Lane Norton,
Hmm.
right? I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna work on I'm gonna work on something that maybe like where am I weak? Where do I think I'm not that good? Maybe I communicated with somebody a few days ago and maybe I hurt their feelings. How do I get better? How do I get better at that? How do I not hurt people's feelings? Or was that person just soft and I ran them over by accident? You know? These are things that you can evaluate and I mean, there's so much information on the internet. You can learn all kinds of things. I learned something a few weeks ago where the guy said, you know, instead of like asking somebody, "Hey, man, like, you got any time on Tuesday to meet up?" Like, instead of asking somebody in that way, you might make that person panic, and they'll be like, "No, man, I don't have any time on Tuesday to meet up." You know, instead of wording it that way, maybe you word it in a different way and say, "You know what? I'd love an opportunity to chat with you. Um, I'm free this Tuesday, but I'm sure that you're really busy." And the second that you say, "I'm sure that you're really busy," or the second that you say, "I'm sure your schedule's overloaded, it's probably not possible to squeeze me in on such short notice," then the person wants to be accommodating. They come from the other side and they say, "No, no, 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 Tuesday's fine." Meanwhile, they have a dentist appointment and they got all this other shit going. They got a haircut. They got a lot of shit going on that day, but they now want to be accommodating because of the way that you asked them, you know. And so there's lots of shit you can learn from working on your personal development, and it could come in all different shapes and sizes. Uh, you can read about philosophy. You can read about freaking George Washington. You could read about great inventors. You can read about musicians. I mean, there's just you can explore all kinds of stuff. What I wouldn't suggest doing is I wouldn't suggest getting too trapped into um, too many things that you just like because you're gonna have to dig a little deeper than just the surface of the things that you like.
Yeah, I've been kind of trying not to spread myself too thin. Cause remember I was telling you about like the music mixing stuff that I was doing for a little bit. I definitely want to get back to it, but I just feel like there's more important things that I need to get to first.
Hmm.
But then I started giving myself kind of not anxiety, but like I felt the pressure of like, dude, I bought this fucking mixer and I haven't touched it. But then, you know, when I started taking personal development a little bit serious, it was a lot easier to let go of stuff that wasn't too important in the moment right now. But you're right. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, dude, I could easily take like a DJ course or something online and figure out how to mix shit better. But the worst part is when Jasmine had asked me, like, why do I have to go to school? We have Google now. I'm like, ah, man, like you weren't supposed to know that right away.
Ah, that's awesome. I gotta pee really bad. I'll be right back.
Oh man,
Tell them about your triple Thanksgiving that you had.
triple Thanksgiving. Well, actually, I can talk about my I set a new world record. Yeah, as you guys know, Mark had mentioned that for every world record that is set on the platform using our gear, Mark's gonna send you guys $1,000. So I took him up on that offer, and I set a world record for the platform in my house on Thanksgiving Day. I just hit a 225-pound deadlift, just obviously just playing around, but it was fun, man. I trained at home with my fiance the entire like Thanksgiving Day week, whatever. And what was funny is I had planned on just kind of like getting like a participation trophy, I guess. You know, like, oh, I'm just gonna train at home with the wifey or fiance, and just move around, not really taking it too serious. Like it's more about like trying to get her a good workout in. And every day I woke up extremely sore. It was kind of awesome. Yeah, I put up a post saying that you know, I was thankful for the gym that we had put together ourselves. You know, it's all just stuff based out of necessity. I hurt my back, so I wanted to use a trap bar. We bought a trap bar. Stephanie wants to get a bigger butt, so we bought a squat rack. It's been pretty damn awesome, and yeah, we did have 3 Thanksgivings. I had one with my side of the family, Stephanie's side of the family, and then Stephanie's other side of the family. And but throughout all of the families, I didn't eat anything too gross. I didn't get weird. I stayed on the diet. And then Mark actually had me do 2 days of fasting.
Oh yeah, how was your fasting?
What's funny is the night before the first day, I made myself hungry by thinking about what I couldn't eat.
Ha.
It was dumb. Like in the moment, I realized how stupid it was because I was like, dude, I would never be hungry right now. Like I had a big old ribeye steak. Like I was good. And then I was like, damn, I'm not gonna be able to eat till like I started counting. I'm like, it's gonna be like 3 o'clock when I can eat again.
Mhm.
Like, oh fuck, I don't know if I'm gonna do this. And we took Jasmine to go watch Venom, which was cool. I was like, as long as I can get to the movie, I'll be fine because as I'm in the theater, I won't think about food. Wrong. Every time the premiere previews would turn
Mhm.
off, like during the preview, I'd be like, oh man, my stomach's like I'm starting to get hungry. It'd get silent. Like, oh my god, like there was a kid next to me. He looked over. Jasmine looks over at me, and then Stephanie's like, "Is that your stomach?" I'm like, "Yeah, this sucks." And I just ended up drinking a bunch of water, and it all went away. But the second day was way easier because I realized that it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, fasting's awesome. I think, it teaches you a lot. It teaches you like you don't need the stuff that you think you need. It's almost always a false alarm. And that goes for food and that goes for all kinds of stuff. You don't always really need this stuff. You just kind of think that you do. You think that you need food. You think that you're hungry. And there's a lot of benefits to fasting and a lot of that's been researched. A lot of people talk about it. But what I like about fasting is just a simple act of learning about yourself, learning about how hungry you truly are, learning about when you should be eating, maybe when you should be kind of starving off that hunger that's hitting you real hard because, like, you're not always hungry. By learning some of these techniques and by doing some of this, you can start to learn that after you eat dinner, you don't have to have another snack. Like,
Hmm.
after you eat, you don't need to eat again, and for a lot of people, that's really a problematic thing that happens to them. Sometimes almost, 2 or 3 times a day it might happen where you just get so hungry that you wanna eat, and then you get done eating, and you still wanna just for whatever reason, wanna indulge more and
Yeah,
wanna eat more.
yeah. I thought it was weird that just by thinking about me possibly being hungry made myself hungry. And then in the middle of all of it, I just like, man, black coffee is amazing. Like it made me appreciate black coffee so much because Mark said I was allowed to have that.
Yeah.
And then the first night when I started eating, I took it slow, exactly as you said, and I felt fine. The second night, I was like, I was good the day before. I'm gonna be fine today, and I ate pretty quick, and I ate a
Mhm.
lot, and my stomach was kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going on here, and I kind of hurt myself. But all in all, I felt fine. I did find that cognitively, I wasn't really there.
Hmm.
I think that could be just from no like caffeine in the morning. Because
Mm.
if I have caffeine in the morning without food, my stomach will get kind of weird.
Mm.
So I didn't want to risk that. But that's what I noticed out of everything, and I thought it would actually be more clear.
Right.
But I don't know. I just
Right. It depends on it depends on your experience level and how much you've done it before
mhm.
and how long you fast for. Like, cause things come and go. Um I have found myself, both being like more aware and less aware. I've experienced both.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes, like if you're fasting for too long, sometimes you'll start to kind of lose some steam and you'll start to forget things, and
Mhm.
it just depends on how long you're doing it for. But yeah, intermittent fasting, I really think it's a hard thing to tell people because it is such a just don't eat. It's hard. It's a little bit of a hard sell. However, if you just told people, you know what, like, have your first meal of the day be at like, 2 o'clock. That's not. I mean, that it might be kind of difficult for some people, but a lot of people will say, you know what, I probably don't really eat that much anyway in the morning. And if you're just eating something shitty, then it might be one more spot to cut out a crappy meal.
Yeah, and I think what you told me was like because we are eating clean and I was eating a lot of fatty foods and stuff anyways, it made it way easier. Had I been eating, fries and hamburgers, it would have been really hard because I would have been starving. But the mindset, just the second day was so easy because I'm like, oh, one, I've done it, and two, it's not that long from right now.
Right.
Like I'm gonna be fine.
I think everybody should give it a shot. Try a 12-hour fast, try a 16-hour fast, the 24-hour fast and things like that. Like they're also great to try, but start out small. Start out with 12-hour fast first. To see what that feels like. That's probably not going to feel too bad. A lot of you probably have done it already just by accident.
Hmm.
And then try, a 16-hour and build your way into it and try some different ones. I've done a 48-hour fast before. I felt that was excessive. Um, I felt it was like too stressful. Like to do that like once a year or something seems like it would be fine, but to do it too often seems like it might be a little bit too much. But as we were talking about some other stuff earlier, and as we were kind of diving into this personal development thing, during your time when you're doing the personal development stuff, it gives you time to reflect on all kinds of things. You could start to go over your diet. You can go over your training. You can think about just some different goals that you might have. You can think about like, oh, I just want my arms to be bigger. I want my shoulders to be bigger. Well, you can kind of write out like, what does that look like? What is that? To the kid that is not doing their homework, the kid that is a little bit lost, a person that's a little bit lost, not even necessarily a kid, but we were talking about your child not wanting to do their homework and some of these other things. You could then ask them, okay, well, what is it? What do you think you would like to do? Or like forget about being an adult because that's like a hard thing to envision. What's a job that you would like to do? And then if they say, well, I want to work at the movie theater. Well, then you'd have to say, okay, well, what actions do you have towards that? And they would say, well, I don't really know. Like I'm not sure how to do that. Okay, well, you know, getting your schoolwork done when you're supposed to get your schoolwork done can help you for that job because you have to be at that job at a certain time, and they're going to ask you to do a lot of things like scrub the toilets and things like that. They're going to ask you to do shit that you probably don't want to do when you don't want to do it. And so therefore the homework is a good example of, you can get this stuff done that you don't want to do when you normally don't want to do it, and it can kind of be reflective back towards your schoolwork. With your own goals, when you start to set your own goals, I want to have bigger shoulders or I want to be leaner. Well, okay, well, what are the things that you're going to set in motion towards that? What is that going to look like? Maybe you write down 2 or 3 steps. I want to be leaner. I want to be lighter. Like if you weigh 200 pounds and you want to weigh 185, okay, that's 15 pounds. What are you going to do? What's your move or moves? And you don't have to change 75 different things. It's only 15 pounds. So but you need to kind of think, how am I going to do this? And you can do a lot of that stuff when you're working on your personal development. It really is a plan for the future. And you can plan for short term future, you can plan for tomorrow, or you can plan for like more long term. But in my opinion, a lot of people don't ever really sit down and think of these things because this is all stuff that they want to sweep under the rug. These are all things they really don't want to think about. I don't really want to think about, where I'm going to be in 5 years because I'm probably be doing the same damn thing. And so It's easier for me just not to think about it. And you want to plan, like, what does it look like for you? What do you want to do? What would you like to get out of the next couple of years? What is it that you'd like to get out of your life? What are you aspiring to be, or what are you challenging yourself or demanding yourself to be? Once that's written out, once that's figured out, okay, well now, like, let's figure out, what are we going to write down to get us towards that message, get us towards that thing that we're looking for, that get us towards that thing that we're pushing for. They say without a plan, then you're planning to fail, and is definitely something that's true. You have to kind of plan out. You got to think about, when are you going to do this. Even when it comes to your own personal development, I'd plan that out. I'd write it out. I'd write it down. When do you want to do it? Remember, I've shared this before about finding time to work out. Don't find time to work out. Just write it down, and then it's found. You don't have to look for it. You already got it. You just need to write it down. You can create time. You can kind of make time. It's like a cheat code. You can prepare yourself for stuff by just writing out what you're going to do the next day. I've said this a bunch of times. You already know where you're going to be each day. You have at least a general idea. And then I always get the one guy who's like, "Oh, my schedule's crazy. I don't know." Right? But in general, you know where you're going to be. Schedule the things around that so that you can be prepared, that you can plan ahead. Um, it's a great time of year to talk about all these things, because someone will um, someone will go to a holiday party, and then they'll eat cake, and they'll eat a bunch of stuff that they didn't want to eat, and have a bunch of drinks that they didn't want to drink, and they'll overdo it, and they'll wake up hungover the next day, and they'll be like, "I shouldn't have done that," or whatever. You can prepare yourself you already know that these things are coming. You can make your own decision, your own way on how you're going to handle that. And you can just go and party. You can say, "I'm going to just go there, and I know there's going to be cheesecake there, and I'm going to smash that shit." That's fine, but at least you already made up your mind on what you're going to do. Or you get there, and something unexpectedly is like something that you don't want to refuse. Well, you can audible. You can audible, and you can say, "Okay, well, I was going to actually cheat tomorrow, but all right, well, this is in front of me today, and hopefully I can be strong
Mhm.
enough to not cheat tomorrow, and I can enjoy this." That's the way you're going to kind of maximize your potential. That's the way you're going to maximize your ability to kind of plan and audible and be able to move in and out of these different things, so that you have more good days than you do bad.
Yeah, and writing something down, it has kind of two things that happen. One, we can't really explain. You write something down, and all of a sudden it starts happening, or something falls into place that was unexpected. I don't know what that is, but whatever that is, that can potentially happen. The other thing is, when you write something down, you just don't forget it. I can sit here and say every morning at 5:30 a.m. I'm gonna work on personal development. Come tomorrow morning, that alarm clock goes off, and I hit snooze or whatever happens, and I skip it. And like, fuck, that's right, I was supposed to do this, and I. So when you write it down, you actually schedule your stuff out. It just, again, it just happens. And when you don't forget it, it usually happens. And when you write it down, you usually don't forget it.
At the end of the day, when it's 6 p.m., and you just got done eating dinner, and you're talking to your significant other, you're like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" And you check your thing, they check their thing, and you chat
Mhm.
about it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, 5:30 tomorrow, I'm going to be doing that from 5:30 to 6:30." Already in your head, you can start to plan out, what does the rest of the night look like? What time are you going to bed? Well, if I'm going to be up at 5:30, then it probably makes sense for me to at least, I need to be heading towards bed at 9 o'clock, so I can get a good night's sleep and be up at 5:30. That way the alarm doesn't even go off. You just wake up because you were laying in bed for so long. Get yourself in position. When you're thinking about when you're watching sports. Like, let's say it's baseball, and say there's a pitcher, uh, a pitcher against a certain batter that has a certain style to his swing. Well, the outfield's going to adjust to the guy that's at bat, and in accordance to who the pitcher is, because the ball's going to ricochet off that bat a certain way. It's going to hop a certain way. So maybe the shortstop plays a little deeper. Maybe the second baseman comes in a little bit, or whatever the case is. Adjust your day, adjust yourself to uh, whatever it is that's going to happen in your day. Make these small adjustments ahead of time, so that you can make the play, so that you can end up controlling your own destiny. When I was talking in front of my house the other day, I talked about this thing that I wrote down, and I used to write down all my goals, and I haven't really talked about this on the podcast before, but I used to write everything down on my bathroom mirror.
Hmm.
And not everything, but I used to mainly write down, because at that time all I was obsessed with was numbers, the numbers of powerlifting. And so, every morning I would, take a shower, and then I would write down, in the fog that's on the mirror,
Oh, okay.
I would write down what I wanted to do. And so I'd write like 804, because these certain numbers are associated with these kilo weights. So you can't just bench 800 pounds or deadlift 800 pounds. It's got to be 804. That's the number that comes up. And so I write that down, every single day. And then for a long time, I did 1,003 squat first, I believe. I wrote down, 1,003, 1,003, 1,003, 1,003, and I saw it every day. And my wife was always like, "What are you doing with the mirror?" She'd kind of see it every day, and then it was, by the time she got in there, it was like halfway smeared off, or because it's like running off and it's not foggy in there anymore. But I used to write those numbers down and obsess over them. And when I started Slingshot and I started this business and I started getting this business heading in a good direction, created the product and then created another product around it, probably a pair of wrist wraps or something like that. Can't remember exactly what it was. I remember going to a Starbucks and I wrote down this number, and this was just something I was just messing around on my calculator, and I was like, at that point already sold a decent amount of Slingshots, but it wasn't I wasn't wealthy or anything like that. But I was just like kind of looking, and I was like, man, like, what? How do you become a millionaire? Like, what even goes into all that? Like, how does that even a possible thing? Like, what do you? Let me just add it up. Let me just see what the math looks like. If I was to try to make $1 million in 1 year, how much money would I have to make? Typed it into the calculator. I did. We got what 365 days, right? And yeah, how much money do you need to make per day to make 1 million? So I think I whatever divided it, or however I did it, and I ended up with 2,750 is the number. And I was like, wow, 2,750. And I'm just sitting there for a second. I'm like, okay, well, I got to make 2,750 bucks a month to make $1 million. And I was like, no, wait, that's not right. I think I calculated it for the day. I'm like, then I'm looking at it. And I'm like, how do you make 2,750 bucks every day? That sounds ridiculous. And then I just was thinking about it more, and I was like, well, I didn't know how I was going to make the money that I've already made. And I don't know how I'm going to make this money, but what I'll do is I'll just set my goals up to be in line with trying to make this amount of money, and we'll just kind of see what happens. And so I told my dad about it, and I told my brother about it. I talked to my brother today about it. My brother's like, I remember that day. He's like, I remember when you called me. I remember when you talked to me about that. I talked to my buddy Jesse Burdick about it, and I talked to Kelly Starrett about it. And Kelly's business was doing well at the time, and he was like, race you to 1 million, And I was like, well, shit, like I'm going to be way behind because that, I think he was, I feel that he was more successful than me at that time. And, I just kind of I kind of forgot about it, but I wrote it down, and I was like, I'm just going to, make that a goal. It wasn't something I obsessed over, because, that is obviously an abundance of money. It's not necessary to live, it's not, but, I didn't know some of the things I know now. Now I understand how important it is to make that kind of money, and the reasons why, because it helps fuel everything that we have going on here now. and it helps for everybody in the building to grow and expand. But at the time, we didn't have other people, and so we didn't have a lot of other people working for us. But that number started to really kind of grow on me, and it started to really be something that I wanted to try to strive for. It was just a goal. It just like a goal that, of me writing down 804 on the bathroom mirror. That's not for anybody else. It's for me. Like, what does benching 800 pounds give you? I don't know. I can't tell you that other than some torn pecs and a bunch of injuries. But it gave me experience that other people don't have. And now look what has happened with the experience that I have of squatting over 1,000 pounds, of bench pressing over 800 pounds, and doing some of these things, some of these heavier lifts raw as well. Now it gives me a platform to speak from, and people are listening because they're like, well, there's a guy who did it. He's done this before. This isn't just a fly by night company. This is not something that somebody who has a business sense just invested in. This is a powerlifting company created by a powerlifter. All the products that you still see on markbellslingshot.com, all the things are a manifestation of things that I needed. Like, I didn't even necessarily, it's not that I wanted to use them, it's that I needed them because I kept getting hurt. I kept getting banged up. I created the compression cuffs because I had elbow tendonitis. I created wrist wraps because I invented the slingshot, and the slingshot allows you to handle more weight. So it doesn't make any sense to handle more weight than you can normally handle, but then not have wrist wraps to protect your wrist with the weight that you have in your hands. The strong knee sleeves were created out of a necessity because I got wiped out by 1,085 and can barely get up off my couch. And so I had to make stronger knee sleeves. At that time, we already had the slingshot knee sleeves, but the slingshot knee sleeves were not strong. They were not compressive enough for me to still be able to squat. So I was taken out of the game for a while. I couldn't even barely squat. When we got the strong knee sleeves, when we brought those to the market, those allowed me to get back in the game. Those allowed me to get back into squatting. Before that, like I said, I could barely get up off the couch because my knees were so wrecked. And even a better testimonial for that is that my knees are totally fine now, and
Hmm.
nothing's changed. I didn't get surgery. I just wore knee sleeves for a while. Now I don't even have to wear knee sleeves if I don't want. I can squat with or without them. It doesn't. Um, my knees don't hurt. They're in good shape. But basically, that 2750 that I wrote down, it made me kind of think. Okay, I don't have multiple revenue streams. My revenue stream is Slingshot, basically. I have Power Magazine, but Power Magazine wasn't really like a real huge profitable thing. I have a gym, but the gym's free. I don't really know how to make supplements, and I can't sing or dance,
Hmm.
and I'm not a doctor or a scientist or a lawyer, so I don't have to know how to make money in any other way other than from like what I have, what I already have in front of me, and the invention that I created. And so I'm like, okay, well, why don't I just maybe what I should think about is how do I just protect everybody head to toe? Initially that was the goal anyway. As soon as I made the slingshot, the next goal right after that wasn't 2750. The next goal after that was to protect everybody head to toe, from their toes to the nose. Wanted to protect everybody head to toe. I wanted to be able to make shoes for lifting. I wanted to be able to make knee sleeves for squats. I wanted to be able to make a lifting belt for deadlifts. I wanted to be able to create a slingshot for bench press and elbow sleeves, wrist wraps. I wanted to cover up every joint that you have in your body so that you can lift regardless of how much pain you were in. And it took a really long time. It took a really long time. Head down for a long time, plowing forward, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. Knee sleeves came along. Wrist wraps came along pretty quick, pretty easy. Elbow sleeves came along. The knee and elbow sleeves took a long time. It took a long time to produce those products and make those products right, and to get them dialed in to where they are today. We've had, originally when we made the first few thousand slingshot knee sleeves, they used to rip. They used to rip all the time. Somebody'd go to get it up their calf. They had a pretty big, beefy calf, and the thing would rip. And I learned back then a really valuable lesson. A few valuable lessons. Number one is you got to really, you got to really do more research on your own products, and you can't just run off. You can't just randomly run off um, some prototypes and think that the prototypes are the exact same as the assembly of all the manufactured stuff that you have in inventory that it's going to go to the customer. You got to test those things out too. So I learned that lesson, but I also learned an even more amazing lesson was that when somebody's knee sleeves rip and when a customer is pissed off, that is a great opportunity to make that situation right. And it's a wonderful opportunity to build your business. And so now you got someone who's super pissed, like, Jesus fucking Christ, I came to your site. You're Mark Bell. You're supposed to be this big lifter, and you made these shit knee sleeves, and they ripped on me, and they tore, and all this stuff. And all I had to do was get on there and say, "Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I'm so sorry that happened. We're going to send you a new pair. I'm going to send you a slingshot with an autograph on it. Is there anything else that I could get you? Sorry for the inconvenience." That person would flip out and they would be so pumped and they'd be like, "Hey man, like that's great. I'm going to tell people you got a great company. That's awesome." And we did it kind of one person, at a time. And we kept building products and building products and building products. And the $1 million thing, the 2750 thing, by the time I got around to figuring out how to make freaking belts, which took a really long time, by the time I got around to that, there was no $1 million goal. It was over with. It was I blew right past it. There was no opportunity to ever even really look at it. I don't even think I ever uh, I don't think I ever even recognized that number. Before I knew it, 2, 3, and more was coming. So, but it started out as a dream. It started out as a dream, and it started out as me just kind of writing it down, and me saying, "Look, man, I don't know, I don't really know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen. I don't really know what's all going to be involved or how long it's going to take, but we're gonna I'm gonna figure this shit out, and this is what I'd like to do." And eventually the goal became small. Like, the goal was huge at the time. I didn't know. I'm like, man, that's 2750 a day. Like, that's really far away. I don't on our best day we didn't have anything like that, so I could not figure out how that was ever going to work out. But with the simple conversation to myself of, I want to outfit people head to toe. I want to protect people. I know that people have wrist problems, people have elbow problems, people have shoulder problems, people have knee problems, people have back problems. I want to cover all that shit. And then maybe I can come up even maybe with a pair of shoes if I can figure out some sucker to help me make some shoes. And that was Reebok, right? So it was being resourceful, and there was a lot of things involved in that whole process, and a lot of people involved in that whole process, but that's how it came to be.
That's awesome. And so Tim asked early on,
What's up, Tim?
so when you first started, did you guys sell slingshot gear on a website?
Yeah, it's always been, and that's why Cyber Monday is kind of a special day, because it's all been internet. We sell stuff through other vendors, but even they sell stuff online too. So it's not like you can go to your local sporting goods store, and pick up a slingshot. You gotta buy it on the interweb. So yeah, it's always been e-commerce for us from the beginning. I don't know how else we would have done it if it wasn't for the internet.
Yeah. Levi, I think that's how you pronounce this person's name, asks if the gym has always been free.
The gym has not always been free. It's always been a goal. It's always been a dream of mine to make the gym free. But for the first 2 or 3 years, I couldn't have the gym be free. I had to, in order to get the gym going and in order to get it running, I had to charge, and basically just needed to try to figure out a way to keep the place afloat. The original super training cost about $900 a month, and I had about 12 members, and we charged $100 a month. And so that worked out to where I was able to make 300-400 bucks a month off of having a few extra people pay. And then as we got more stuff, I charged a little bit more, and then we moved the gym, and there was still a fee for it. And then right around the time that I moved to Midtown Strength and Conditioning was probably maybe 6 months or a year later, when we finally were able to like drop. I always wanted to make it free. It was always in my head. I was like, I need to figure out, but I didn't want to lose money on having a gym, so I had to charge in the beginning. Um, and then ultimately got to a spot where once I started making money with the slingshot, I was able to open up the gym and keep it for free.
So you want to take a diet question?
Sure.
All right. Jonathan, he's lost 55 or 45 pounds
Oh my God.
in 55 days.
Wow.
But he's hitting a plateau. Said he's tried doing more cardio, tried cutting out carbs, but he's still stuck. And he wants to lose another 75 pounds more.
Wow.
I know, it's a lot. But you've talked about plateauing before. I just
Mm-hmm.
can't remember which podcast it was, or else I would have told him to listen to that. So
Yeah.
instead, we'll just do it here.
Yeah. Did he say how he lost the weight?
Let me check. Where'd it go?
He didn't say anything about like the type of diet that he did or whatever, right?
Yeah, changed out his diet and then added a workout routine, including
Hmm.
cardio. But no, it doesn't say exactly. He just said he's cut out pasta and rice. Even did the HGC diet. I don't know what that
Oh
is.
yeah, HCG. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but yeah, that's all I've got so far.
Yeah. So usually, like when you get stuck in anything in life, it's time. It's time to probably make a change. It's time to try something different. You can't just keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That's the definition of insanity. You're not going to end up with a different result until you do something a little different. And so in this guy's case, sounds like he's busting out cardio and sounds like he's trying to diet the best way that he knows how. But your body might need a little bit of like a reboot. What I would suggest is, man, it's so hard to tell someone to take a break from a diet, especially somebody who's lost so much weight. It's dangerous territory in some sense. Um, but I'll give you two options. Option number one is to just pick a different diet. Option number one is like jump on the vertical diet, try something different. Allow yourself to eat more on whatever diet it is that you select. So if you pick the vertical diet and you start eating rice and you start eating sweet potatoes and stuff, just allow yourself for a week or two to kind of recharge your batteries and to start over. Um, if you start getting worried about it, you start gaining weight back super fast, you can always audible and switch back over to whatever you're doing. I would ditch the cardio and I'd start to try to send your body a different signal. You want to try to send your body a signal of muscle growth, especially while you're switching over to a vertical diet, which is from Stan Efferding. Go to stanefferding.com. You could pick up a copy of his book there, which actually you can't physically pick up a copy because it's just an ebook. It is like $100. If you don't want to pay $100, then you can YouTube it and you'll find a ton of information. But the book has tremendous value and there's a lot of great information in there. So I would change the signal that you're sending your body. You're sending your body a signal of lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, and you've already lost some and you're kind of stagnant. And losing weight doesn't really happen through exercise. It's unfortunate that it has very little impact, especially when you've already been exercising for a long time. If exercise is new to you, then it has a pretty good stimulus. But send your body a message of trying to gain muscle mass, and then also, if you still want to do cardio, try some HIIT cardio rather than this like long duration stuff. Um, some people when they do their HIIT training, they like to like go like 100% and go all in on their sprints. I don't think that's necessary. I think if you go at like 80%, 70%, I think that still represents enough of a change from the like 50 or 40% that you'll put in while you're quote unquote resting. So I would look into some of those things and really just making a change is going to be your best option. Um,
And do you think because he's lost so much weight in such a short amount of time that his body might just kind of have been in shock and it's like, whoa, slow down. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it might be, but he also, it also sounds like he has, a good amount to still lose,
Hmm.
from what he's saying. Um, you could also so option number 2 is, get the war on carbs, jump in on a keto diet, and and I would also just get rid of that cardio, um, and lift and walk. Just lift and walk, lift and walk, lift and walk. The cardio is great, but cardio is like the cardio works for like periods of time, and it takes a lot. Like cardio, just it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot out of you, and so I would just give it a rest for a little while. Maybe you don't get so far away from it that it's hard to get restarted with it again, but I would just ditch it for a little while. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got as far as fan questions right now.
Awesome. I think we can wrap this bitch up.
Yeah, buddy.
Wrap this bitch up.
How are your chesties after yesterday?
My chest and my arms are pretty sore. My biceps.
Your bicepticles.
I feel it in my biceps. Yeah, my pipes are sore because we did the fat bar and then we curled the squat bar. We went back and forth between those two, and then that little circuit that we did at the end there was brutal.
Yeah, it was all tough. It felt really good though. I was a little nervous getting
Yeah, my
back
arms are sore.
getting back under the bar for the bench after not having any carbs whatsoever, and then not really stepping inside super training for almost a week.
My titties are
Hey,
sore.
that was rude. Smokey just made a comment. But
Mhm.
no, yeah, I felt pretty strong though. I felt great.
My boobs are sore.
Breasticles.
I think it was the flies. I haven't done any flies in a while.
Those hurt my shoulder.
They kill. They kill. I can never do them very good. Anyway, we're out of here. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.